Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories, and I'm your host. My name is Darren Clark. Guys, why am I putting together Neurodiversity Stories? Is purely to spread more awareness around neurodiversities and, guys, to hear your stories and your views on neurodiversity. Guys, we have had a phenomenal array of guests. We are now on episode 20. What an incredible journey we have been on, and thank you so much for all of your support and everyone that have been as guests, as viewers, have shared the posts and the messages as well. Like I said, we're doing this to spread more awareness around neurodiversity, and can't believe that we are now on episode 20. Guys, we have another phenomenal guest today. We have an incredible individual, Martin Bloomfield. Anyone that is in the neurodiversity sector, and I don't want to make him blush on this, will know his name and know the incredible work that he is doing with regards to dyslexia, neurodiversity as a whole. He is literally working the globe, spreading awareness, teaching and training. And I'm absolutely thrilled that I can pinpoint him down in the nicest possible way to have him as a guest on this show, because I know he's massively in demand. So I will be introducing him even more shortly and bringing him on to the show. Guys, as always, if you could let us know where you're tuning in from. As I said before, this is a global platform. We get people from Kenya, our good friends in Kenya, Argentina, America, Australia, Germany. So if you would like to just let us know who you are and where you're from, and please feel free to join into the chat as well, and maybe, connect with some people. So guys, I also want to say a massive thank you to our brand new sponsors, Touch, Type, Read and Spell. And guys, I just want to show you this.
I always knew I had problems with reading and spelling. That was before I heard about Touch, Type, Read and Spell. It's amazing. I make fewer mistakes when I type emails. And if I get stuck writing by hand, I just think where my fingers would go. Thanks to TTRS, I am faster on the computer. Reading feels easier. And every day, my confidence grows. I guess it goes to show you, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late to start learning. Make a change today with Touch, Type, Read and Spell.
So guys, Touch, Type, Read and Spell, incredible company. Please do check out all of their links. We're all in the bios as well. And thank you again for supporting Neurodiversity Stories. So guys, without further ado, I'm going to be bringing on my incredible guest today, Martin Bloomfield. He actually says on his LinkedIn profile, he's a relentless optimist. I could probably give him incredible a bio and the titles and everything else, but I will allow him to introduce himself and tell you guys what an amazing job he's doing. As always, guys, please let us know where you're tuning in from. And as we bring on Martin. So, good morning, Martin. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm really impressed by how professional all of this looks. It's far more professional than I would ever imagine.
Thank you so much, Martin. And yeah, I've got to do something with my creativity, see? So I always think I love learning and creating things. So I thought, why not implement it into the stories?
We all need a bit of cello in our lives as well.
Do you know what? I am a massive advocate, a massive fan of classical music, which don't get me started on this. It allows me to relax and focus and everything else. But I want to introduce you properly, Martin, and also again say a massive thank you for your time today. Martin, I've been following the work that you've been doing online and the stuff you're doing. It'd be amazing if there is anyone out there that doesn't know who you are, but if there is, if you could just let us know who you are and kind of what it is you do.
Yeah, it says on my LinkedIn bio, I'm a relentless optimist, as you said, but it's a lie. It's a complete and utter fib. I see optimism and pessimism as this idea that you think it's going to come out right or you think it's not going to come out right. Actually, you have to be a positivist. You have to make things come out right. My name's Martin Bloomfield. I work for a number of organizations, but my main employer would be called York Associates. I'm working on some Erasmus Plus projects to bring neurodiversity awareness to the continent of Europe. I work in various universities around Europe and beyond, and I'm finishing my PhD this month.
Wow!
Is it July yet?
I think it's yeah, it is. It's second
July. Then yeah, I'm telling the truth.
So Martin, if I can kind of take you back, I like to kind of ask the guests in kind of, how kind of neurodiversity is kind of, being a part of your life. And it's for you, it's dyslexia, isn't it?
It's dyslexia, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. And perhaps, although no one's ever actually given me a formal diagnosis, most people who know me would say ADHD as well. But
okay. So neurodiversity as a whole, there's quite a few things that you would class yourself with regards to, with regards to neurodiversity. Mm-hmm. Can you remember? So, was there actually a diagnosis with dyslexia or dyspraxia? Was there a formal diagnosis, or was it something that you've kind of learned to know that you have?
There have been two diagnoses, yeah. One when I was 30 and one when I was about 42, something like that. Okay. So I've had two diagnoses, and the reason for that is the first one was I think things were getting on top of me, and I was noticing certain things that I was unable to do. So this is at a time when I was very able, by the way. I'd managed to get to university, and we might come back to this later on.
Yeah, no, please do.
I got to university when I was about 23. It's like 5 years after everybody else had managed it. And I was 30 in university. I spent ages in university, and I had 4 years for an undergrad, and I did a master's degree, and that took me about 3 years, which is kind of long, but it was a good one. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
no, absolutely struggling. So I was unable to do the amount of reading that I was supposed to be able to do. There were postgraduate colloquia that everybody else was going to, and I couldn't, because I couldn't read a paper and a chapter at the same time. It was one or another in a fortnight period. And everybody, my tutors were saying, mate, this looks like stream of consciousness now. Why is it looking like stream of consciousness? It's always looked a bit like stream of consciousness, but now without the guidelines of an undergraduate degree, it looks kind of a bit wild. And I was getting a little stressed. And I had a lot of dyslexic friends. And the reason is my university was this tiny little place in the middle of Wales called Lampeter, St. David's University College Lampeter, one of the oldest universities in Britain. But no one wanted to go there because it was in the middle of Wales, in the middle of nowhere. There were no cinemas, no bowling alleys, there was no shops, there was nothing.
Which a lot of people kind of go with regards to universities and stuff. That's a kind of an attraction, I guess, isn't it? The social element as well as the educational side of it.
Absolutely, and yeah. So a lot of people didn't want to go there. So it would attract people from clearing, and that is people who couldn't do their exams effectively. Yes. But it was full of really intelligent people who couldn't do their exams, and therefore they had a really well-developed dyslexia unit. And these people were saying to me, Martin, I think you're dyslexic. And my response would be, you're no more dyslexic than I am. And what I meant was, I don't think you're dyslexic. You show just the same kind of characteristics as me, and I'm not dyslexic. And eventually I was pushed to having myself an assessment, and it turns out that it's true. They were no more dyslexic than I am, but then I'm dyslexic. So yeah, that's when I had my first diagnosis.
Wow. Okay. So how was school then? Because I would class, you're very academic in the sense that you love learning. That's in abundance. I always say I wake up like a sponge every day, just wanting to absorb something. And so I'm always kind of learning and educating myself. Whether it stays in is another thing, but I'm always kind of learning that. So where do you think your love of learning and teaching is stemmed from, Martin? Is it something that's always been a passion of yours? Because it does seem that way.
Yeah, it stems from two sources. It stems from almost like this excitement at learning that I can learn and finding things that I'm able to learn. And it stems from an anger, a genuine anger.
Okay.
school for me was horrible. I mean, it was humiliating, it was frightening, it was confusing, it was depressing. I would feel physically nauseous at the thought of going to school, and I look back on my school days and feel nauseous thinking about them.
Yeah.
It was that bad. It's like I spoke to some people recently, and I said, look, you spend, what is it, 6 hours a day for 5 days a week, 40 weeks a year for 10 years of your life at school, and you've got no option. You can't opt out of that.
No.
And if you don't fit into that situation, then it's effectively, that adds up to more or less the average custodial prison sentence in Britain. And you're putting kids through that who haven't deserved it. You're putting kids through this that don't fit into the system and that are getting punished by the system, and who will be punished if they try to avoid the system. Yes. So it's like, it's a lose-lose situation. And it's not only the school time that you're there, it's not only this sort of 40 weeks a year, 5 days a week, 6 hours of the day. It's not only that, it's the homework at the end. Because while all your friends are outside playing, you're sitting inside crying over your homework because you don't even understand what it means. And this, for me, was the most traumatic experience. And it's why I never thought I could go to university. And so there's this anger at what had happened to me at school. And at the same time, when I discovered that I could, this excitement of, oh my God, it's possible to learn if only people understand what learning is and how to go about it.
Absolutely. And Martin, you touched on the fact that, that longevity of, a child's education is, it's when we think of mindfulness and we think of, positive affirmations or positive thoughts, or, making sure that you build, a child's self-esteem and that confidence element. If a certain word can make a child feel uncomfortable, in the sense, if you tell someone off, or if you not tell them off, but if you say, that work's not very good, it conditions them in a way to feel that they're unworthy, or, they won't try something else. But if you magnify that into such the long duration, and then you take it then from years that it's very difficult, isn't it, for a child then to have that confidence to then leave the education, to then be confident in the workplace.
It's almost impossible, because what's happening is you're being measured by your results. That's what school does. It measures you by your results. And if you're not getting good results, then you have a low value, effectively. And you go through school life feeling that you are of less value and less intelligence and less ability than everybody else. And you don't understand why. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the thing. When I was at school, I was told, and I don't only mean this by the grades told me, and I don't only mean it by other school kids told me. I mean this, the teachers and the head teachers told me that I wasn't clever and that I wasn't going to amount to anything. They told me that. When you go to your careers events, I mean, I remember what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor or a director, actually. I wanted to go into theatre and become a director. And I made an attempt at it for a few years. But I was told to my face, no, don't do that. Get such and such a job working behind a counter here. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But effectively what you're being told is that you are not capable of doing what you want to do.
You're having that choice taken away from you. And I remember my school days where I remember the careers talk with my school, and it was literally in a gymnasium, and there was a pasting table at one side of the underneath the basketball hoop, at one table, and there was another one at the other side, and that was it. I go into the educational side of it now, and there's people talking about apprenticeships and all these, the colleges and universities. For mine in the school, it was literally 2 pasting tables. And I'll tell you who was there. There was one lady there from the council, and she had a pamphlet, and she was handing these pamphlets out. And it was it was a color-coded system where and she basically said to us, the best thing you can do is to, and this is what they actually said, was to get someone pregnant, and then your point system will go up because you're more likely to get a council house.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
That was the educational system where I was at that established. The other pasting table was a gentleman from the army asking us if we want to sign up. So that was the level of
either create life or kill it.
that was the level of choices. Thankfully, a lot of it's changed now, and I'm not saying that, but I just remember coming home with a pamphlet for the army and a pamphlet from the council at the time. with leaflets of how best to, to get a council flat and all these different things. Yeah, it was criminal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's criminal. It kills kids and it kills dreams and children. I mean, look, it's too late for us, but children are among the most vulnerable people of society.
Yes.
And if we have a structured system that does this to them, then we are morally criminals. That's it. We are moral criminals for doing this as a society. We have to address it. And so this is one of the things, where I said the anger comes through. It comes through because of that, because of what happened to me, but to other people. And I cannot sit back and just let it happen.
What Martin, because I can kind of, the similarities in the sense of, my schooling was, I was put in a thing called the unit, which was separated from the rest of the school children. So my 5 years of secondary education was literally in a separate rundown porter cabin. And, I was allowed to do art, I was allowed to do drama, and I was allowed to do PE, but I wasn't allowed to do science or maths or anything else like this. And you try, when you're in your secondary school, it's very difficult. All you want to do is kind of run underneath the radar and just fit in. To be singled out from no choice of your own. The pressures are just intolerable.
It is, and kids tend to take on one of a number of roles as well. And these aren't the only 4 roles available, but there are essentially 4 main roles for kids in schools. You can either be the clever one, and you can sort of succeed by being clever, just generally impressive, and people respect that. You could be a bully. You could be the aggressive one. You could be the sporty one, and I was neither a bully nor the sporty one, because I can do certain sports, I can do individual sports, but I can't kick and I can't run and I can't kick and I can't throw and I can't catch. I've got no abilities like that. You could become, if you like, the school SWAT. You could become introverted but if you're the SWAT, if you're the introvert, then generally you're the target for the bullies. So you tend to then feel that I felt that the only option left was to become the class clown. And the class clown is the one that kind of builds these defense mechanisms through humor. But of course, what happens is you encourage everybody to laugh at you, because that's a defense mechanism. And yet, if we encourage people to laugh at us, then we start to psychologically believe ourselves as objects of fun, and we don't take ourselves seriously. And we'll start to go through lives taking ourselves less than seriously.
That's incredible. It is. I can really kind of understand where you're coming from. I was the class clown, but it's funny, isn't it, how we take that on. We don't want people laughing at us in the sense of making fun of us, but when we make fun of ourselves, we encourage people to laugh at us. That's wow.
Yeah. And then if your teachers join in, which they invariably do, then even the authority figures are laughing at you. Everybody. Your school friends, your authority figures, yourself. Of course, no one takes themselves seriously at that point.
It's that fine line, isn't it? It's then, when does it become then a joke to then, a form of, bullying, I guess, in that aspect as well. So, So Martin, your educational side of it was nothing short of horrific, if you don't mind me saying. It sounds absolutely terrible, and you wouldn't want anyone to to go through that. What's given you that strength? Because if something, if we think about something and we go, well, actually, I don't like doing that because it, you think learning and education, we think, well, actually, I've had such a horrible time with that. Why would I want to revisit that? It's like anything, isn't it? If you do snowboarding, I guess, and you're always falling over or hurt yourself riding a bike and these things. Where was that? Where did that come from? That real love to say, well, actually, I can do this, and and then you flourish, because it's such a big part of your life.
It's really telling, actually, because there's been a number of studies. University of Birmingham did a study on this. The University of Sunderland did a study on this. A number of universities have done studies on this. That actually it's the environment. And if the environment is positive, if the environment is encouraging, then people learn better. What happened to me is I'd been, as I say, sort of terminally unemployable. I couldn't get a job. I kept getting fired from jobs because I had a problem with authority at that point. I couldn't keep a decent job down. And there's something called underemployment, where you feel that the jobs you're getting are not taxing you in any way, and it's basically draining you. And as somebody who failed at education, who couldn't get the results, who couldn't get the exams, I was permanently being filtered into these underemployed jobs and then getting fired from them or whatever. And I was on an employment training scheme in 1991, I think it was, and it was called CRA, Community Rural Aid. And I met a girl called Nicola Ball. And if anybody knows Nicola Ball, who has ever lived in York, then let her know. She was the first adult relationship I'd ever had. And when I say relationship, I don't mean girlfriend. She wasn't a lover. She was simply the first friend I'd made outside school, outside childhood.
Wow, okay.
And she was, she wanted to become a teacher of English as a foreign language. And to do that, for some reason, she needed to retake a maths O-level. And so she was on this employment training course. But in the meantime, in the evening, she was taking a maths O-level. And she said, and I respected her, and I really, really loved her. I look back on Nicola, and I have nothing but love and respect for her. And she was the first person, the first adult, if you'd like, who had ever said to me, Martin, you're actually quite intelligent. Why don't you go to university? Because she could feel that she knew that I was lost, and she knew that I had nowhere to go. And she said, well, you're clearly intelligent. Why don't you go to university? She was the first person ever to say that to me.
To believe in you.
Ever. And it gave me such a feeling of value that actually I'd been devalued my entire childhood, and that somebody finally had recognized that the results I was getting in maths, the results I was getting in science, the results I was getting in just about everything, they didn't define me. And that she saw that there was something inside me, and it excited me, and it made me want to. Now, interestingly, I went into philosophy, and there's a couple of reasons.
I'm fascinated by this. Fascinating.
On the one hand, yeah, I always had an interest in just the big picture, the way the world is. This is quite a dyslexic trait, and there's enough research to back that up. So this idea that I'd always looked at the big picture, I'd always asked why, what's behind it, what's underneath it, what binds it all together, effectively. But I also, ironically, being dyslexic, the one subject I could do at school was English. I couldn't read very well. I mean, I could read, but I mean, you know, I couldn't read any of the novels. Hard Times, I think I read page 1, and it took me a long time. I think Shakespeare, I used to just read the pass notes in the end. I'd watch Shakespeare videos, because in those days it was video cassettes. I'd watch Shakespeare videos and read York pass notes.
Wow.
And be able to interpret Shakespeare really, really well through understanding what the pass notes did and the videos. Couldn't read it, but I could understand it.
That's like out of box thinking, though, isn't it?
It's the out of the box thinking. And I believed, therefore, that what I wanted to do at university was either philosophy or English, but it wasn't English. What it was, as it were, some form of linguistics. I wanted to do some linguistics, understand the structure of language, because I'd learned to spell when I was 16 or 17. I couldn't spell before that. And I'd learned to spell when I was about 16 or 17. I'd taught myself very basic etymology and morphology. That is how words are structured, what their roots are and how they fit together. And this fascinated me. But because I didn't know what it was called, I looked at all these English courses, and they all involved reading. And I knew I couldn't do that. So I couldn't do a course that involved reading. So I had to sort of walk away from all the English courses. And most of the philosophy courses didn't look like they had as much reading. And it really was as simple as that. And then this is subconscious thing going on. When I went to university and chose the philosophy courses, I was really specific. And I used to joke about this. I chose the courses that I could spell. So I didn't choose courses on Kierkegaard or Schopenhauer, because I couldn't spell these words. And I thought, well, if you can't spell them, you're going to get marked down. So I chose courses on John Locke and Hume, these really easy words to spell. And that's how I got funneled into philosophy. It's through mistakenly believing linguistics or whatever was English, and then trying to choose a subject which didn't involve that much reading. And I was just lucky that what philosophy does is it doesn't grade you on the things that other things grade you on.
Yeah.
So philosophy grades you on something different, and it's really, really important. And it tells us something very important about education. So people have asked me, how can you grade somebody, for instance, if you don't give them an exam? Well, one of the ways is, as I said, I'm about to complete my PhD, and coming up, there's something which I'm really terrified of, and it's called the Viva, which is effectively this oral exam. It's short for Viva Voce, which means something like, I don't know, oral exam. I don't know.
We'll go with that. I think if anyone else knows what it is, but we'll go with that, Martin.
So, and what they do is effectively, you've written your thesis, and then they talk to you about it. They ask you questions about it, and you discuss it, and you defend it in an argument. And what you're doing is you're defending deep learning. You're not trying to recall fact questions. You're not trying to do what exams typically do, which is ask you to put pressure on working memory by recalling and applying, and then asking you to put pressure on executive function by ordering, sorting things out, creating an essay. What they're doing is they're interacting with you. What they're doing is they're unearthing whether you understand the subject by testing you on whether you can defend a point or whether you can understand what they're saying. And that is deep learning. And that doesn't put stress on those cognitive functions that people with dyslexia struggle with. And that's one of the things that we have to understand that philosophy teaches us. It teaches us that you can prove you know something without going through an exam system.
That's incredible. Martin, what we got a bit of background. I don't even know if that's correct terminology, but we're going to. Hopefully, it was sort of. I think it's all good now. Martin, what with regards to the way that people learn? Okay, so if we look at and you touched on this as well, the memory side of it. So remembering something. So reading the book and then writing about it, or doing the test and then writing. What's your thoughts on that? Because those kind of exams, I struggle with my kind of dyslexia, ADHD. I kind of the short-term memory side of it. When I kind of overthink something, it's very difficult. So if I'm trying to remember something and especially you put a time element onto it as well, what's your experience of that, or your thoughts on that?
So what we need to do is we need to understand the philosophy of learning and what learning is. And I use this word philosophy very wisely and very, very deliberately. So first thing we need to do is we need to understand, for instance, a guy called Aristotle, one of the greatest ever philosophers, who, by the way, one of the cleverest people in history, was wrong about almost everything he wrote. And so this idea that being right and wrong shows that you're clever is completely flawed. People like Aristotle, he was wrong about almost everything he said. But but there's no way you could claim he wasn't one of the most intelligent people in history. Aristotle talked about something called phronesis. Phronesis is effectively the application of learning, the learning through application, the learning through doing. And we don't mean this VAK kinesthetic learning. We don't mean that. We mean the application of learning through doing. This was picked up a couple of thousand years later by an American philosopher called John Dewey, who said that you learn through activities. And activities are what creates learning. And we know this neurologically because learning doesn't happen in a part of the brain. Learning happens when the brain works together. And the brain works together when it's multisensory, as Alton Gillingham talked about, and when you do, which is what John Dewey talked about. So you learn through games, you learn through applications, you learn through practical activities. Then you look at people like, you look at something like Bloom's taxonomy. Now, for people who don't know Bloom's taxonomy is effectively a hierarchy of learning. Those of us who don't like the hierarchies will reconstruct it to be something different. But originally it was a hierarchy of learning. At the bottom of what learning is remembering. And at the top is creating. What the exam system tests us on is the bottom part of the hierarchy, the least important or the least valuable part of the hierarchy of learning. It doesn't test us on application, doesn't test us on understanding, doesn't test us on creativity. It doesn't test us on anything that's at the top of the Bloom's taxonomy of learning. It tests us on those things that are at the bottom. So the very structure of the exam system is designed to test that you haven't learned.
I'm trying to think about the way that so if that is the case, then why are we continuously having that as the learning platform, and it's still happening?
Because school isn't about learning, and this is really key. School, at the moment these days, and this happened in the 1990s, but it's become more and more and more entrenched. School is about showing international tables that Britain is the top, or if you're Germany, that Germany is the top, or if you're France, that France is the top, or if you're Thailand, that Thailand is the top. And you do this through standardized testing. You can do this by producing standardized results through standardized testing. And so instead of education being the servant of the children are the servant of the education system to produce the results for the education system, so that the government can say, look, our education system is good. Vote for us. That's effectively what's going on. So the education system isn't there to teach the children. The education system is there to get the children to get high marks, so that can prove that the education system works. It's a vicious circle.
Marcia's just put a comment up. Marcia, incredible advocate for dyslexia, doing phenomenal work. If anyone is listening and wants to connect with Marcia, and please do, she's doing phenomenal work. She just commented, I wonder why we are tested to lower learning structure, and you're absolutely right. And it's what you've been saying, Martin. It's just I know that there's been kind of flaws in the educational system with regards to, say, personally my education in those aspects, but it does seem a structure time and time again. I mean, the teachers are doing a phenomenal job, and we know this, that they and everyone always says incredible, but underpinning that the sheer structure which we have to adhere to.
Well, think of it like this. The teachers themselves are doing a great job. Teachers themselves try hard. Teachers are in teaching because they want to help kids. But I'm going to put forward a rather shocking statement, and then I'm going to try to back this up.
Please do.
We ask, what is it to be racist in, let's say, America, because the American context and the British context are slightly different. But when we say within the United States, what is it to be racist? One of the things you can say is, well, actually, white people in the United States are racist because it's a structurally racist system, and that those people who are benefiting from that structural racism are effectively, even though they're not willingly racist and not wittingly racist and they don't know it, they're contributing to a system of inequality. I'm going to make the same claim about teaching. The teachers are not doing anything deliberately, but where the structure of education is unequal, where the structure of education is created not to genuinely teach deep learning to kids, but to create results, then anybody who is part of that is actually contributing to the inequality of education. And it's no one's fault. The teachers, I'm not blaming any teachers.
No.
Believe me, I'm not. But the structure is there, and it is almost there. People like me, the dyslexic kids who can't recall short-term memory, who can't do the whole exam system, we're the collateral damage. There's 15% of the kids who are dyslexic who are the collateral damage of this system, and the system doesn't care, because as long as the system gets the results, then it works. And so we say teachers are really good, teachers are really loving, teachers are doing their best, but the system that they're working within is a system of inequality.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Martin. It's incredibly insightful. And do you think that the structure is so why isn't it changing? Is it the case of it's just too much work, or the system just fits, it just works in the majorities? So that's fine because statistically it works on those bases. I'm not asking you, the answer to this, but it's just time and time again, we're still talking about how change can happen in the educational system, and it's just trying to find out why it isn't and how it can maybe.
So the system is changing, and there are 3 ways we need to address the changes in the system. So I'm going to go back to teachers and congratulate teachers and show love for teachers. What's happening within the teaching profession is, okay, so I'm going to bring in the name of a theorist who died last year. Nobody takes this guy's theories sort of neat anymore. You have to dilute them and sort of work with them. But there's a guy called Goethe Hofstadter. And Hofstadter was a cultural theorist. And one of the things he did was he defined cultures within certain, what he called dimensions. One of the dimensions was uncertainty tolerance versus uncertainty intolerance. Another of the dimensions was masculinity versus femininity. Now, when he said that, he wasn't making a gender normative point. He was making a point about the type of ways that we look at things. So let's say a certainty intolerant education system penalizes you for getting a fact wrong, whereas a certainty tolerant education system applauds you for making the effort effectively.
Okay.
A masculine education system effectively has rows and rows of kids reading, learning, inwardly digesting, and then regurgitating in a competitive manner. Whereas a feminine education system has a more nurturing system where kids are sitting around tables and helping each other develop cognitively. What's happening is that the teachers on the ground are becoming more uncertainty tolerant and feminine in their teaching. And so the teachers are doing great things. The problem is, on the other hand, that governments are becoming more masculine and uncertainty intolerant in their demands. And so there's more standardized testing. The standardized, if you like, things that are more uncertainty sort of suffused. So,
Yes.
so they are becoming valued less. And so the things that are very, very valued are STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. These are the uncertainty intolerant subjects, by the way. And of course, if you don't think in STEM ways, some of us have to put the arts in their STEAM, but no one really believes that. Everybody knows that STEM is what education systems are going for, with standardized testing. And so what's happening is that whilst the educators are becoming more, I'm going to use this word feminine, if you don't mind me using that word, the education system is becoming more masculine. There is a fundamental friction there going on. And the reason that we need to address change from 3 levels is very simple. First level, we need to address change is with the teachers. We need to encourage the teachers to do what they're doing and to keep feminizing, to keep uncertaintyizing. We also need to then address the school boards, so that the school boards and the school governors and the education authorities can work and find ways of accepting and adopting this feminized education, this uncertainty tolerant education. Then we need to work with governments and education departments to say, look, stop doing this, stop testing people on the lowest level of Bloom's hierarchy, start working out how we can test people further up the hierarchy, start working out how we can do this. Because these 3 levels, the teachers, the education sort of governance, and the education ministries, these are the people we need to address. We can't just address one at a time, because if we do that, if we address the education ministry and we don't teach the governors and the school teachers how to do it, nothing's going to happen. If we address the teachers but we don't address the education ministry, then they're King Canute, they're fighting against the tide.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we need to have this tripartite attack, so to speak.
That's truly incredible, and I love the way that you've broken that down in its entirety, really, and the change that definitely does need to happen, and I guess we're talking. I mean, what we're seeing some changes, absolutely, okay, but generally, are we talking generations that this is going to happen? For it to happen, many generations, and for the structure to start really kind of ramping up and changing, and not just be this ideal of the best practice.
We need a children's rights movement, not in the classic sense of children's rights to stop abuse, because this is clear. Of course, we need to stop abuse for children. But we need a children's rights movement which looks at how we're educating our children and makes it, as it were, a political movement to change this. Because we say, how long is it going to take? It might never happen if we don't push for this politically, if we don't push for it on the ground. So it might never happen. And this is the fear. This is why we have to keep pushing. And I suppose when I say I'm a relentless optimist, it's this belief that, of course, we can make it happen. We must be able to make it happen. And so, yeah, it's going to take generations, by the way. But here's the thing. I often talk to teachers, and the number of teachers I've spoken to who've said to me, oh, yes, Martin, we tried putting in dyslexia-friendly sort of methodologies, but it didn't work, so we reverted back to the way it always was. And I say, well, how long did you do it for? Went, 3 months, 6 months. You think, well, You'd never take a child and say, we tried teaching her, but it didn't work, so we stopped. You'd never do that. So we need to have a long-term view of how we address the educational problems that we've got.
And I think, like you said, and I think by tackling it from every part, then allows the education for themselves in that sense, and obviously the support element of how to unite and do it all together and have that structure, and that camaraderie of change can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So and it doesn't happen with just one person. It happens in networks. It happens with connections. It happens with the change of the language, rephrasing the language that we use, and to try talking about education in different ways, to try talking about intelligence in different ways, to try talking about learning in different ways. We need to stop linking learning and remembering as though they're synonyms, because they're not.
Do you think, because we talk about the educational side of it as well, and we do a lot of work with organizations, and some organizations are doing incredible things with regards to neurodiversity, and other things I wouldn't say that they're not doing it. It's maybe not either priority or knowledge within that, but whenever we talk about the workplace, there's still fundamental things that the structure is very much exactly the same. And I always say the analogy of when a new person applies for a job, is it dyslexic friendly? For instance, just take dyslexia as an example. Applying for the job, we see so many people that could have just fallen, very talented people for the role, but could have just fallen through the net throughout the process, from the first hurdle from the application process. So it could be the psychometric tests that they have to do, or the application form, and then the interview. Have you spoken to people who's experienced this, Martin, or have you had any kind of experiences?
I have. I mean, first of all, I've had terrible experiences with the Australian government. For those people who don't know, and I'm perfectly open about this, I have a son who lives with his mother in Australia, and I love him very much, and we talk as much as we can. We spoke last night on Zoom, and the pandemic has made it very difficult to travel at the moment.
Absolutely.
But I've been in terrible trouble with the Australian government, because they've been sending me letters. They had been sending me letters, which were 12 pages long, double-sided, close-typed, loads of information. And I'd been looking at these and trying to read them, and I couldn't get my head around them. And I believed that they were information letters. And then suddenly I got a letter saying, you owe the Australian government $20,000 or $25,000. And I just went, what? And I had to then fight that. And I had to then say, look, I've not been trying to sort it out effectively, rather than go to prison. This happens all the time. And it happens all the time in the education system. It happens in the recruitment system. So when I look at a recruitment advert, if I look at a recruitment process, can I understand the process? Can I navigate my way through the process? Here's something really, really shocking. I was giving a talk at a law conference a couple of days ago, and there's a number of us there, and there was an advocate from the Disabled Lawyers Association, and this advocate from the Disabled Lawyers Association happened to be a wheelchair user. And somebody asked him, he said, so over the pandemic, what the courtrooms have done is they've reset their courtroom spaces. They've taken seats out. They've done all this so that there's social distancing, and that you can go to court and that you're not sitting next to somebody. And now they're starting to put them back because social distancing is easing. Has anyone talked to you? They said to this chap, has anyone talked to you about realigning these courtroom spaces to make space for people in wheelchairs or people with dogs? And he said, no one. And this is the same with the education system. The schools have been out effectively for a year.
Yes.
Not one school that I have heard of has taken that opportunity to make itself dyslexia friendly. Not one school that I've heard of has realigned itself, has restructured what it does. Not one. And it's a trait of human history. I mean, let's go back to the Bible. Okay, so in Exodus, God would sort of appear and frighten the Israelites, and the Israelites would go, "Oh God, I believe in God. I believe in God." Then God would sort of hide himself again, and the Israelites would go back to sort of slaughtering people and sacrificing people and doing all the wrong things. You go to the First World War. destroyed society. It destroyed the way we did things. We claimed we would never go back to that. Within a few years, we were doing it again. You take Spanish flu, people had to realign themselves, and then they were doing things again. You take absolutely every single traumatic, as it were, upheaval in human history, and you'll notice that once it's over, we go back to our old ways.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we need to take these upheavals and say, no, this is not a challenge. This is an opportunity. This is the opportunity to change the way we do things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you think about these things as well, Martin, you're absolutely right in the sense of, courtrooms, moving chairs back, workplaces, could be, schools as well. It's that old, that kind of, well, this is what we've always done, since this is what we always do, unless we're told otherwise, in that structure. But we have had, in my life, in our lifetimes, an incredibly, the pandemic is touched every single person's life. And it is a time to reflect on so many things, but also, how we move forward. And you're absolutely right, And when you said about that, say the courtrooms, for wheelchair access and places for, for dogs, for the blind as well, that should just be, in this day and age now, it should just be the norm. That's what we should be, saying. Well, how do we facilitate this area? How do we accommodate, this area for people? This. And
how do we make our spaces enabling? How do we make our practices enabling, rather than how do we make what we do disabling? And no one thinks in those terms. We all give it lip service. Everyone goes, oh yes, we're neurodiversity friendly. We've downloaded a document. But that's not making anything neurodiversity friendly. That's ticking a box. That's making an excuse.
Yeah, I always say, the first thing, because they all say, well, how do we become neurodiversity friendly? I say the first thing you need to do is just start the conversation, because if you don't know anything within your organization, you can't say, oh, well, we'll get some tech in, we'll get some books, we'll get someone to do a talk, we'll get this. If you start this process, and I'm saying if you should, you should start this process, but this is a long term. This isn't just like Dyslexia Awareness Week or Dyslexia Awareness Month or this is forever. This is how an organization should be implementing these.
It's like trying to lose weight. Now, I'm not saying that people need to lose weight or should or shouldn't, but if you want to lose weight, what you don't do is you don't go on a diet for a week. What you do is you change your lifestyle. You change some of the foods you eat, you start exercising more, you go for walks, that kind of thing. You don't just go on a diet for a week. You change the way you live. And it's the same with this.
Martin, we are coming up to the allotted time. And I just want to say it has been absolutely incredible having you on the Stories, catching up with you, my friend. And I love the way that you see the world. I love the way and the incredible things that you're doing. So I wish you the very, very best with your studies. Try not to get too nervous. I'm sure that exam you'll flourish. And then what's next after that, Martin? Or is that a secret? Are we not allowed to? Because you're always learning.
I've got a few things in the pipeline. But to be honest with you, I think there's something you've got to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm not going to focus any further. Absolutely. It's like the England football team. I'm sorry if people don't support the England football team, but it's like the England football team. They have to focus on Ukraine. They can't focus on the final. It's the same with this. You've got to focus on what's immediately ahead of you. In my view, that's what I need to do right now. So I've got ideas. I've got things in the pipeline, but I'm focusing. And so hopefully I'll get this PhD, and then after that I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to take maybe 3 weeks off. And
will you actually take the time off, then, Martin? Will you actually take? Because I know I know how incredibly busy you are. You go, well, I've done a day. A day is fine.
I finished early for the evening, so that's okay.
Martin, how can people reach you, Martin, and connect with you?
They can reach me on LinkedIn. Well, first of all, please reach me on LinkedIn. Check out Martin Bloomfield on LinkedIn. There's a number of us. You can also find Facebook. I run a group called Dyslexia Bites on Facebook. If you go to YouTube, find Dyslexia Bites on YouTube. So youtube.com/Dyslexia Bites. That's one word, and it's BYTES. So Dyslexia Bites is one word, B-Y-T-E-S. And I've also got a website, dyslexiabites.org.
And anyone who wants to connect with, not wants to, hasn't connected with Martin already, he does incredible videos, and I'm always learning. I've said this offline with Martin. I'm always learning so much more around dyslexia and neurodiversity from the videos and the content he puts out. So please do connect with him and request to be, in his group and stuff.
And I'm just going to say, it means a lot coming from you. I mean, as everyone knows, I mean, people who are watching this, everyone knows that you do the most incredible work. And so it's been a genuine privilege, really, it has, to be connected with you, to know you now. I've met you a couple of times online before, and it's always a pleasure and a privilege, Dan. Thank you.
Bless you. Martin, thank you so much. Honestly, a good friend of mine. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you have an amazing rest of the Friday, and a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch up with you very soon. Take care, Martin. Cheers. Bye-bye. So guys, that was Martin. I'm sure you'll agree. What an incredible individual he is, doing phenomenal work. And please do connect with him and see and help him support the things that he's doing globally. Thank you as always to everyone that watches these neurodiversity stories, from all my previous guests, from Martin today, and everyone that comments and shares these posts. It really does help to spread more awareness around neurodiversity. We will be back next Friday at 11 a.m. UK time with another fantastic guest, and I will catch you then. Take care, guys. See you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.